Hello everyone, my name's Roxanne Ratcliff and I'm the Diversity, Inclusion and CR Manager here at Burgess Salmon, and today I am very pleased to be joined by Daniel Adherne from Adjust. So Adjust are an organisation that provide training and consultancy and to help businesses and other organisations develop a really kind of clear and practical understanding around neurodiversity and how that interacts particularly with the workplace. So we've been working with Adjust, helping to train and upskill some of our people around neurodiversity and what we can do to build a better and more inclusive workforce and workplace for neurodivergent colleagues. So welcome, Daniel.
Hello, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So I just wanted to ask you a really quick question, I suppose. So for perhaps a business that might be just starting to think about neurodiversity and how they can sort of amend their processes or their practices to make it a bit more inclusive in that respect, what kind of initial tips might you give an organisation like that to help get themselves started?
I think it's a really good question, and at Adjust we sort of position ourselves as the organisation that start the neurodiversity conversation. So we really like to galvanise organisations and get them thinking about what they can do from the start. And I've got a few different approaches. Sort of the top level is, I think, like trying to get senior leadership buy-in is really, really important. And I've also seen that across other diverse strands in organisations. And sometimes you can look at what you are doing with other diverse strands within your organisation and replicate that. And one of the strongest things I've ever seen is senior leadership buy-in. So that could be senior leadership sort of championing it. I've seen individuals in senior leadership come forward and say they have ADHD, for instance, or they have children with, they have autistic children or children with dyslexia, etc. And it can make such a difference to the organisation's culture to have that senior leadership buy-in.
Yeah.
I also think another area that could be really important is, do you have internal networks? So a neurodiversity network, it may be something that after you've sort of had an initial session around neurodiversity, you think that's something that we're going to do. And I find that's something that often happens after I've talked to organisations, that people go away and set up an internal neurodiversity network. You may already have an existing one for perhaps disability, or like I said, for other diverse strands, but I think it can be quite important to have a neurodiversity specific one. And then I think the sort of third area is where we come in, is education and awareness. And I think that for me, as you've seen me in my training, that I massively believe that the education and awareness is one of the biggest ways we can change the environment to suit our neurodivergent colleagues. And that can be things like where we talk about changing attitudes, changing your understanding why it might suit some people to have walking meetings instead of sitting down at a desk. Why it can be really important for some of our autistic colleagues that we're very clear in our communication and say what we mean. And the way we talk about neurodiversity at Adjust is not from the deficit model. And often it's about us, those of us that aren't like autistic, perhaps just changing the ways we do things. So there's some of the ways that I think about. And with the education piece, I think you need to be looking at all colleagues, because I think so often we direct our education, awareness and training towards like managers, which is really important, and HR, which is really important, and recruitment. But from my experience of the work I've done over the years, one of the most key areas you can address is colleagues having that understanding. And I think we really need to make sure that everyone in the organisation is brought into neurodiversity. So that's my sort of long answer to your to your question.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, because you can have kind of all of the training around your management and your line managers as you wish, but you're not really going to get that inclusive environment unless all colleagues sort of understand different neurotypes and sort of the rationing and the reason and the kind of the rationale behind behaviours that they might see within the workplace. Because I think just with that little bit of base understanding that you might not have before, actually it can be really quite transformative in terms of how people can interact with each other and support one another. So yeah, I think it's a really great point.
Definitely, it's all of our responsibility, and I don't want neurodiversity to be seen, perhaps somebody at school might have seen another child being taken out of the class for some extra help with dyslexia or something like that. Like, I want the sort of opposite approach, and we're all responsible for this, and it's not something that just happens in a room out of sight. It's there for all of us. Like I said, I think we can learn from some of the other diversity strands that we focused on in the workplace over the years, and apply some of that learning to neurodiversity.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Daniel. That's been really, really useful. And as I said, we've been working with Adjust to help to upskill and train lots of our people around neurodiversity, and has such positive feedback for the training session that we ran recently with Adjust. So hoping to develop the relationship further. So thank you very much, Daniel.
Thank you for having me.
It's great.